Hello, everyone. We have a very special video today. We have an interview with Paul Rubinstein, a pretty amazing musician that you have to meet today, and you will do it today. So we have a special video. We're going to talk about a little bit of the transition from Finale to Dorico. And let's begin. Let me tell you a little bit about Paul. He's a producer, composer, and recording engineer. He is a summa cum laude from Berklee College of Music. He has more than 50 years of experience. He has won the Latin Grammy. He's a very awarded arranger. He has worked with famous musicians like Pitingo, Natalia Lafourcade, Lila Dons, Gustavo Dudamel, Jarabe de Palo, Debbie Nova, and many, many more. He owns and is the producer at Real Music Productions. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So let me introduce this. We have these funny questions that we do in every interview that we have. We call them the 5 fun facts. It's something that is a heritage from our first interview that we did for a famous dialogue editor called Malcolm 5. That's the 5 from Fun Facts.
I get it.
And that's something that we're going to do in the interview. Is very silly questions just to have some rhythm and break the ice and start with that. So let's begin with the first one.
Let's go.
So first fun fact. If you had the chance to send an album to space for aliens to listen, which one would it be?
It would definitely be something by the Beatles, I think. Maybe the anthology or the #1 album. I think it has a little bit of everything of what we love as musicians and as people who like emotion. I think it has it all.
Yeah, I do agree on that. So before we get into Finale transitions and stuff, let me talk a little about your experience to let everyone know what is it that you do. Mm-hmm. So thinking about your writing process, what is exactly that, what do you do as an arranger, as a producer, and where do you start your workflow?
Of course. The main client that I have is the Philharmonic Orchestra in Costa Rica. We do a lot of covers of famous types of genres or bands, and we pay tribute to them doing like a crossover thing. So when I get a project like those, I begin straight into Dorico, where I write my music. And when I first listen to a song, I pay attention to things like the intros, the outros, the meter changes that they may have, key changes, and I make note of those and just begin writing straight into the score. Yeah, sometimes I get projects that are not related to live performances where I need to compose from scratch, and for those I mostly stay in Pro Tools for the composing, and then I switch with MIDI to Dorico and make those adjustments.
Right. And I assume, because it's not my line of work at all, but do you have revisions? And how do you handle that? Where do they start? How many do you do?
For arrangements, I mostly know my way around those, and I think that I have a clear sense of what my client wants and what the orchestra is successful at. Mm-hmm. So I don't have many revisions. When I enter a new project with a different artist, for example, I try to focus on the pre-production part, where we have conversations about our likes or dislikes, our references, and most of the time when I send my mock-ups, they are already ready to be printed, and it all works out.
Right. And in terms of deliveries, I mean, what are your main files that you have to give to your clients and stuff?
So aside from the actual scores, the PDFs, I usually send a mock-up that is coming straight from Dorico, the audio, the isolated arrangement, and I also bring it into Pro Tools, where I do a little mix of the original track, if it has one, that goes on top of the arrangement, or an isolated vocal or a reference track, I do that combination as well. So those two types of audio files. And some musicians ask me for XML files,
Right.
so that they can edit their own part. But mostly that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. So, fun fact number 2. Do you like to use uppercase, title case, or lowercase to name your files?
I like not to stay in lowercase, so maybe all words start with uppercase.
Okay, cool.
And no yelling, so no all uppercase. I
No
don't like those. Yeah, I feel like files are yelling at me.
I feel that. I feel that. Okay. So, thinking about the transition to Dorico and the first steps and installations and processes, what Dorico tool was the one that made you say, okay, I gotta do this. I gotta, embrace this and go move forward and get Dorico.
I saw that it had independent playback and editing like engines, so that you can edit while you listen to it. That was a very important tool that I was looking forward to, and the condensing for big orchestras that need to quickly and intelligently condense. Also, just one more, because there are many,
Yes.
the switching of instruments from
Right.
one player when they have to switch from, I don't know, piccolo to flute. That happens naturally with all the indications, and it looks amazing, and it's very, very
Fluent.
yeah,
It
that's
flows.
it.
When did you make that transition? Is it not that long ago, right?
It was 3 years now, almost 3 years.
Not that long ago.
After a big project that had all those challenges of condensing parts and switching instruments, and I knew I had to look for
Or something else.
Something else, yeah.
Yes. Okay, we all been there. And what was your overall experience in that process of, starting from scratch a new tool that is awkwardly different?
I looked at it as a challenge, I think. I was a user of Finale for 18 years. And doing that switch, I looked at it, like I told you, as a challenge, as a bit of study. I relied heavily on the official information that the developers give in the YouTube tutorials and the Steinberg forum. And I didn't ask personally a question to nobody except the internet. And I think it went extremely well.
Yeah, I think now that I think of it, it's kind of not only an upgrade on the tool, but it's also a personal upgrade. You're making
Yes.
yourself more efficient again.
Of course, and you feel useful. Your brain starts to look at scores in maybe a different way.
Right.
At projects, you can look at it from other perspectives. You feel freer, less bound by
Right.
the technology.
Right. And okay, fun fact number 3. What is the weirdest, funniest project-related story that you can tell us?
Okay, there's one with the Los Angeles Philharmonic.
Right.
I got the chance to write arrangements for Natalia Lafourcade and that amazing orchestra with Gustavo Dudamel as
Gustavo Dudamel.
as the conductor, yes. So it was an amazing and very intimidating at first experience. He was very kind, and we were at rehearsal at the Hollywood Bowl, which is a very big place, and he wanted to get an opinion on the sound
Right.
of the tracks of the songs that they were rehearsing. So he turned around and looked for someone. I was the only one there because it was early in the morning.
Yeah.
So he told me in
You were the
Spanish.
lucky one.
Yeah, I was the lucky one. He told me, hey, can you go and check the sound on some different places around back and go up there? And so I ran by myself and listened a little bit to the bass, which he was worried about. And I came back, Maestro, it sounds fine to me. You're good. And he was, okay, thank you. So it was a very nice
It's a
moment
very nice
that I
moment,
had.
but a very weird moment because
Yes.
it's obviously a huge figure. And
Yes.
you have it like in a pedestal. and stuff.
Yes, I do, but it was awesome. He's extremely talented, but a very nice person, down to earth as well. So it was very cool.
Cool. Okay, back in business, Dorico main differences. I think definitely Dorico is a very different tool to write scores in, and I think that's kind of what may scare someone that has been working with for so many years, like in Finale or Sibelius or whatever. And definitely it's something that you have to tackle. I want to remove some fears
Yes.
about the modes and the caret and the flows and things like that. So
Okay.
how was that first encounter with the modes, with the engraving, set up and write, and that, you know, those tabs and,
Yes.
and those ways of writing?
Like I mentioned before, I try to to check out a few videos first. Don't try to listen to the developers explain them, and you can find those, and they will tell you why they are made like that. So it's a process that starts when you set up your ensemble and your project. So that setup mode, it's right there. So then you start write mode, engrave, and then print. It becomes very natural once you get around to understanding why they did it like they did it.
Right. And there's this concept about the whole concept of flows.
Yes.
And we are not really used to that. So can you give a few words to quickly clear the mind on that topic?
Okay. A flow for Dorico's purposes is a piece of music. So you can start a project file and have as many pieces of music as you want.
In the same project.
That's in the same project with the same main ensemble, and which you can change also, but that's another subject. So if you have a symphony in 5 movements, you can separate those so that you can switch around the order if you want. You can transpose one instead of transposing the whole thing. You can make revisions for one. If you have only one piece of music, you can revise it by quickly creating copies, altering the ending.
Right.
So it's just an extra layer that they have. Like we mentioned with the instrument changes,
Right.
They have musicians, they have players, not instruments.
Right.
So you assign an instrument or many to one player. The same way with the pieces of music. You have one file, but you can have many flows, or just one.
Right. And do you use them much, or is it not?
For me, I find it that in my case, I use it more for creating copies and alternate versions, switching a key,
Right.
for example. Not if I have a concert, I would try to do different files
For each song.
For each
Yeah,
song.
so you can do flows for related, for the same song tweaks,
Yes.
but not necessarily between songs. Right?
That's the thing.
The caret is a new concept for us that come from other writing programs, but it's basically a cursor, and it has a lot of scope to it. How was your process of adaptation to the tool?
At first, it can be a little intimidating, the caret, but once you get to know it, you find all its uses, and it also helps you get into the mindset of, okay, if there's no caret, then I can't write music. So when you see it, you're in the mindset of, okay, what's the next note that I'm inputting? It's a very visual tool that helps you look at the rhythmic subdivisions that you have. You can see the downbeat because it's a bigger line, and it helps very much.
X-ray of what you're doing and
Yes.
where you're going to, right?
Yes, it's very useful.
And do you use the multiple stems input?
I used it many times because for large ensembles, sometimes you have the same rhythmic position for a note or a chord that it's spread out into multiple instruments, and you can do that instantly with the multiple staff entry.
Right. I should have asked this before, but can you explain to the newcomers to Dorico what is exactly multiple staff input?
So when you are writing, for example, a Word document as a text document, you see that there's this cursor blinking. If you could extend that from one instrument to many, now the program receives information from your MIDI keyboard. You can play a major chord, and all 3 notes will be displayed and distributed evenly
throughout the different stems.
staffs. Yeah.
And you can use your fingers to do that at the same time, right?
It's amazing.
Fun fact number 4. If you have to remove a movie franchise from the existence and everyone's mind, which will you choose?
I'm a Marvel fan, so I think the DC movies are not doing justice to the Justice League. Maybe. Yeah, so probably
they are gone then. That's cool. Okay, Dorico experience and the impact in your process. Can you play mode and write mode in Dorico? They are tangled together, but very different workflows.
Yes.
Dorico has many MIDI options and very similar to what you can do in a digital audio workstation or things like that.
Yes.
Do you take advantage of it? How much do you actually tweak, CC information?
Yeah.
Or things like that.
I don't get much deep into the MIDI capabilities. I go into the play mode to assign sounds if I need changes, and I like that you can go into the lower zone and open up the MIDI editor and change the play duration instead of changing the score. So you can move a grace note a little bit closer to the next note. That type of editing I do. And dynamics editing, I also try to tweak them when I find it necessary. And it's very easy.
Yeah. I do agree with that. The same concept, I think, relates to engrave and print mode. Can you explain some of their advantages to the new users?
Yes. So engrave mode is after you've done inputting all the indications, all the music, all the text, everything, and you just need to look at the score. If there's tweaks that you need to make, those will probably be done in engrave mode, where you can choose and grab an element in the score, any type of element, and just move it around. Decide how many measures will be in each page or each system. That's very, very powerful. And the print mode, I was thinking that it helps me to feel like I'm done. So that helps a lot. When you go into print mode, it means that you're done. You've done your job. And you're close to just exporting those PDFs. Yeah.
Right. What tools would you say are the most useful in your workflow today with Dorico?
I like many capabilities that Dorico has. I love that you can input your notes, your note pitches instantly from jumping from one note to the next without assigning the rhythmic duration.
Right.
I love that. I love condensing. And the instrument changes, like I've said before. Mm-hmm. I love the independent playback from editing engines. You can do that. Scrub playback, where you can just listen from point to point in real time. And the jump bar, I like it a lot.
Okay, cool. So, fun fact number 5. If you could steal a music skill from any musician, what skill would you steal and who would you steal it from?
I'm a guitar player. I like blues and rock. So I think I would, maybe I'm going to say Stevie Ray Vaughan or Eric Clapton's improvisational skills.
Right.
I love those.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so trying to ease up the process for the people who's struggling now with the dawn of Finale and going into Dorico. With all these experiences that you have with Dorico, what would you do differently today? Would you do the same process that you did, or do you think it's easier today? Or
I think it definitely is easier today. Right. There are many people that are making the change, so there's a community about it that helps.
That helps a lot.
But I think it will be ultimately the same, because you can still go to the official channels, you can go to the YouTube tutorials, the Getting Started series. I think those would probably be the same. Mm-hmm. I also tried jumping straight into a project instead of doing like exercises to try to teach myself. I taught myself by delivering a project, which was exciting and challenging and hard, but I would do it the same way again.
And that brings me to the question: how long did it took you to get into a comfort zone? Like you felt like, okay, maybe I'm not a pro right now, but I'm working and doing it right.
I think around three arrangements in, I was pretty comfortable.
Right.
Also, I was learning. I was still asking questions. I was not settling. If I knew that I wanted to go deeper into a function, I would go deeper and go as the forum or get a sense of that. And I also spent the time tweaking my personal preferences,
right,
which Dorico is huge with those. You can go very deep into how you like things done and your keyboard shortcuts. So that's a process that will take time. But I feel like within a few months, I was already faster, a few weeks, I was already faster than I was with 18 years of working in Finale.
Right. And that brings me a question. Speaking about the key commands, do you use the fact that you can assign that to MIDI controls and MIDI buttons and MIDI keys and things like that?
I don't. I try to stay as mobile as possible, and I keep it all in the keyboard in the computer keyboard. In the computer keyboard. So I use MIDI keyboards and MIDI controllers mostly for notes, but I often don't do it also. I write the notes straight from the keyboard. I like to work on my laptop whenever I can so that I'm always working. But I assign a lot of key commands for every action that I need. It's mostly done by a key command that I assign.
I didn't ask you this before, but I want to bring it up right now. And there's the ease of transferring information from the setup to the print, like the titles, and we have all this tag system that travels throughout the whole Dorico experience.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that so I can understand the benefits of this?
So Dorico, when you're setting up your project, it has a file info window where there are all the categories that you would want to use. Title, subtitle, arranger, composer, copyright, anything. And you can set that up so that every flow in that project will have that information displayed in the way you want. Dorico has a way to input that information without rewriting it.
Yeah, it's kind of like you have certain tags and they appear in every document that as you want them to be.
Yeah.
And that's very useful because you don't have to do the naming and the titling of every small part and every score. And so that's a big thing. I think this is a huge...
It's a very big advantage. It also helps when you're setting up different projects that have the same ensemble, for example.
Right.
For example, my orchestral percussion parts are different than my violin parts. Why? Mostly because they have the list of the instruments that each percussionist has to have.
Right.
And that's already set up before I even start.
Yeah, so we were even speaking about this earlier, that is worth investing time in that template that you have.
Oh, of course. You have to be aware of what your template is doing and your template sets are doing, so that your workflow becomes very, very easy and fast.
Yeah,
and
we said, we repeating ourselves, it's better to spend one day doing that than one day every time that we have to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, there's something that I want to get a little bit in depth of, is the fact that the playback system of Dorico is very, very fast.
Yes. It's faster than you need it sometimes, because you are thinking about what idea is coming next, and maybe you're used to a little bit of a lag or a wait time, but in Dorico is seamless. You can switch from different modes of writing and still listen. You can switch from views, from part to score or whatever, concert score or transpose score, and keep listening to your track. That's amazing.
And I don't know if you use this, but you have the fact to create like tabs, and you can see certain parts of the radio.
Yes, I forget that I can do that sometimes. I mostly stay with one tab open, but you can definitely have many tabs with one part and the score, or the score. Different parts of the score,
the brass, and that makes it kind of easy to
to check some instrument families or stuff. Yeah, it's amazing.
Okay, cool. So, any final word to the Finalis users considering Dorico over Finale right now?
I made the switch 3 years ago. I am more than happy about making that choice, and I would say that every switch or every change comes with a learning curve. Don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. It's easier than one might think when you spend a little bit of time with it, and just keep going back to the resources. They have the tutorials and the tips and the forums. It's very thorough, and I'm very happy about the way that the Dorico team responds to the community of users that have questions. It's very unique. So
I do agree. I have a final thought, and I think the interface of the program is very well designed from beginning to end, as you would expect, but it wasn't in other programs as it is in Dorico. Then you have the setup of the orchestra, and the different modes, and then you have the tools and things like that, and that switches between modes. Can you let people know how that becomes an advantage?
Yes, so Dorico sets you up for a specific or a natural workflow that you have in your projects. So first you have to set up your orchestras. You go into setup mode. Each mode makes the interface work for that mode. So you have different zones in your screen that help you set up your project. Mm-hmm. Then you go into write mode, and those screens will
the writing mode.
Yeah, so they serve that mode, and you'll find all of those tools there. It's very intuitive, very intuitive to work and to go from one mode to the next. And when you reach the final printing stage, like I've mentioned, you're very happy. You've done it, and you're ready to move on.
Yeah, I wanted to hear that from you, because in my experience, and I wanted to highlight it, is that yes, Dorico is a very different DAW. Not necessarily a DAW, but a scoring program.
Yeah.
But a writing program, but it's very different because it's very well thought out, and in terms of what we might need to do the scoring. And
yes.
So we have, as you said, embrace that, because it comes with a lot of help to the work that we do with.
Of course, and it's been done, in my opinion, with a lot of care. A lot of thought was put into it. I would advise also, you mentioned before what to say to the people that are switching. I would advise for them to listen to the creative team of Steinberg's and
the YouTube
Dorico.
Channel has a lot of that.
Yeah, so you can listen to a little bit of the story behind how they went about solving the problems that they've found, and creating a program that's very intuitive and that solves all of those problems. So once you get on board with that, you start to familiarize yourself with the thought process behind every decision that you see on the screen. It's not just a whim. It has an explanation.
It has a purpose, right?
Yeah, it has a purpose.
So thanks a lot for your time, Paul. I really appreciate making the effort of receiving us and being here.
Thank you for coming, and thanks for having me in this interview, and a lot of fun talking to you, Carlos.
Where can our audience hear your work and see your studio and hire you?
You can find me at paulrubinstein.com.
Cool.
Or Instagram, I'm there, rubinstein.paul.
Cool.
And I'm here, whatever you guys need, anytime.
Okay, thank you very much. See you on the next video.
Thanks.